Hey everyone, welcome to Atlas Gaming. Please like and subscribe. I release content every day. We are playing the Eminus demo after some changes that were made to the game on the 2nd of April of 2021. The most noticeable change was the addition of a heavily armored enemy, and I've already made a short video about it, but I wanted to make another one to give a little more feedback about some other things too. I have played this game a lot, but I set out to do it differently this time. I wanted to see how few enemies I could kill, while also seeing how many of the new type of enemy was spawning. That's the true mark of stealth, right? No one knowing you were ever there. I was detected almost immediately, and resorted to killing guys, but tried to do it only when necessary. That path wasn't going to work, so I tried the other way. I was trying to remain undetected, so there was a lot of crawling. A lot. And crouching. The first objective is to get the backpack on the table under the camo covering over there. There is an enemy right next to it, so he was going to have to die. There was no way around it. Since the objective is in the open, the other enemies near it would probably detect me. Those enemies would have to die too. Sure enough, I was detected at this range while prone. So more guys are going to have to die. I had clear line of sight to this guy, but something was keeping my rounds from hitting him. I wasn't sure if it was the tree or the truck or both. It looks like it was just the tree, though. There was something blocking these shots, too, which looks like the table. I realized that this part of the map isn't really set up to avoid the enemy, so I decided just to clear the entire camp. I already got the backpack. On to the next camp. We'll get these two guys on the way. Like I mentioned, I set out to kill as few guys as possible, but realized that some guys were just going to have to die due to the combination of the map layout and how the stealth mechanics work in this game. I tried to get on top of the porta potty to get a clear line of sight to the two guys up the road. Went prone. Then this funny little thing happened. I was still trying to kill as few guys as I could, but realized that this camp wasn't designed for that either. Let's take out the big guy first. Let's just take everyone out. And get the sniper rifle. And finally, we'll get the radio to save the game here, which will be nice because I'm going to die a lot. I really like exploring maps in FPS games. So that's what I did after I got this checkpoint, and it got me thinking about why I do this. I've explored the heck out of this map already and know it pretty well, but I still do it. Why? There is this weird new genre of games emerging called walking simulators, and people play them for exactly the same reason that I like exploring this map. They just like walking around in a simulated world and exploring. I think that's why open world games are so popular now, and an open world is becoming the expectation in these types of games. This might be something to consider when making the next Eminus map. The Steam community page mentioned that there will be Easter eggs coming up. I'm excited for them. And a more open map would mesh well with the Easter egg hunt. I ended up looping back to get the enemies near the truck. I noticed this tree on the way. Then I headed back up the road. Now we have looped all the way back around, and we're heading away from the checkpoint with the first radio. This little tent over here was added a while ago, and I wanted to check to see if anything had changed about it in this update. I was approaching with the AK, but I had second thoughts and decided that I'd better play it safe. Switch to the sniper and keep our distance. Sure enough, that's another heavily armed enemy. It's good to know that the sniper rifle will take them out with one headshot. It's also a good reminder of how loud the sniper rifle is. It attracted a nearby enemy. Like I said before, I'd like to maintain the high ground for tactical advantage. This is at the end of the road from the radio checkpoint camp. I wanted to see if I could get to the high ground on the other side of the road leading up to the main camp by the water. Bingo! There it is, our way up. Well, this is a nice view. Another nice view. Alright. Now, how do we get down? I was scanning the enemy base, and I noticed this weird texture on the rooftop. I'm sure that's just a placeholder. Let's try to get down here. There is a thing in the game that disallows the player character from crossing steep terrain while they are crouched. So I decided to exploit that while descending. I ended up hitting some terrain that was too steep to get a bite on, though, and slid to my death. Sad face. On this attempt, I decided to forego killing the guys on the road and the guy in the tent. I went straight to the third camp. One thing I noticed in this playthrough was how loud the sniper rifle must be to draw the attention of so many enemies. Here's a perfect demonstration. I was sitting up here firing the AK and no one noticed. Then the sniper rifle. Oh god, oh god, oh god. I ran away as far as I could. All the way to the guys on the road that I was trying to avoid, one of which was a heavy. I made multiple attempts to beat the game, and all of these antics went on for a while. So I will begin to cut to the chase here and transition to the additional feedback that I wanted to give. I encountered some remarkable things along the way to the finish line. Here's one. I respawned and wanted to take out the guys at the end of the road with the sniper rifle, starting with the heavy. That worked well until his buddy started shooting at me from behind. Apparently, this heavy was spawning in this camp with me the whole time, but didn't notice me every time I went to get the AK. I wanted to test it, so I shot a sniper round into the deck. Here's another example of how we can't shoot through some things that we should be able to. Like tents. Then this is a regular guy wasting me with pinpoint accuracy from the standing position. Their accuracy has a random component to it, so this is actually just me getting beat up by the RNG gods. This guy kept spawning here even after saving the game after killing him. This is the new knife sound. I like the disdain with which the player character spits on the enemy. After all those antics, I finally had a solid setup for the final camp with 80 health, a medkit, and 6 rounds left in the sniper rifle. I didn't want to mess it up, so I took my time and came up with a strategy to fire and relocate to the other side of the road. Over and over. Back and forth. I was basically exploiting two things in the game that I have learned through playing it. The sniper rifle will attract a lot of enemies, and those enemies will investigate the noise but will not leash back to their positions. Each time I relocated, it seemed like I was getting a little closer to the final camp in order to find the next enemy. Eventually, I got close enough to attract enemies to my position so that when I relocated back to that firing position, enemy was there waiting for me to kill them. I checked to see if he was a heavy. Then the same results on the other side of the road, but with 2 enemies this time. I was thinking about how to kill them both and decided for a headshot on the regular guy, then just unload on the heavy. Better reload before implementing that plan, though. Then relocate again. This game is difficult, and I died a lot. I think in total it took 5 attempts to get all the way to the final radio. At this point, though, I cleared out all the bad guys and wanted to have a look around because getting the final radio ends the game. This looks like some kind of, like a futuristic mortar system. This looks like possibly a new weapon. Another new weapon. This is especially exciting because it's a stealth game and both of these weapons have suppressors. And the weird container with an invisible barrier that grows its own weeds inside. I think this is the one security camera in the entire base. This might be a cool mechanic to add later on, though, to make it even more challenging, you know, like on certain maps or something like that. This is what the end of the map looks like. That's it for the playthrough portion of this video. It took me about 1 hour and 45 minutes to complete, including all of my wandering around time. I set out to be the ultimate stealth warrior, but I don't think it can be done on this map. Also, I counted 4 heavies in total. 1 at the first radio camp, 1 at the end of the road near the toll booth thing, 1 in the secret tent, and 1 at the final base. Am I right? Is that it? 4? Now I am going to go into some detail about some things in Eminus in its current state that I hope will help. I want to emphasize that these are my personal thoughts based on how I, as an individual, play the game. The first thing is the AI. They don't leash, and they only pursue up until a certain point. Also, if I run away before they get to me, they will sometimes do this thing where they run back and forth from their starting point to where I was. There was also a point where a guy jumped off a roof to shoot me, and I can only assume that he took fall damage. It just doesn't seem like something a person would do. Another big thing that I noticed was that traversing the terrain was often hindered by the slopes. This is a tactical game, so there was a lot of crouching, and a significant portion of the terrain that I encountered while crouching would stop me. And I think it was just because the slope was too great. And I would have to stutter step or stand to get over the steep part and then crouch again. This interrupted the game flow often and impacted my playing experience. Here is a shot of me shooting the AK and the sniper rifle from the same spot. The loudness of weapons seems like it needs to be reworked, and I want to be clear on what I mean by loudness. I mean a weapon's affinity for attracting enemies to the shooter's location when they go to search for the player after the player shoots. I'm sure that a rework is planned for the future, but what about suppressors? You could probably just keep everything the way it is for now and add suppressors to basically explain the difference between the loudness, or account for the difference between the loudness of the sniper rifle and the assault rifles. The next thing is something that really stood out to me on this playthrough, and I loved it. I'm talking about the synergy between the environment and the enemy's camouflage. I've commented on this before. At first glance, it all looks pretty straightforward, but it really comes into play when you are trying to confirm a kill or you are locating an enemy after running from them to reposition. It would be nice if the draw distance for the ferns was greater, and varying the color of the ferns would make the environment more aesthetically pleasing. However, in its current state, I was really impressed. One last minor thing that I noticed was the player character's panting. It seems inconsistent. This is probably by design and just something that is left unexplained as part of the game's realism. However, I still wanted to mention it. Usually when I sprint, the character pants afterward to let you know he is winded. But sometimes this does not happen. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching Atlas Gaming. Please like and subscribe. I release content every day. We'll see you in the next one.